Hello, we're here today with Al Correia, who we're putting aside you being the host of that Milford show and being a Milford Finance Committee member. We're here to talk to you about the Prospect Heights Mayors Association and how this tradition got began.
No politics.
There are no politics.
Okay,
in
no
Milford.
politics. Okay.
The same way that the rumor is Kevin can run a remote control.
That's and now that we've proven that, yeah. 6 years later.
The Mayors Association is really something that this side of town we feel proud of. Back when Draper was the biggest employer in the area, they tried doing something that if they ever did today, they'd get hung for all the right reasons. They were bringing in, when you think about it, at the height, somewhere between 3,500 and 5,000 workers there. Mm-hmm. Think about Milford. How many people did we have? 8,000. If you counted the dogs, the sheep, the cows, and everybody. So they were bussing people in. And immigrants coming from Europe looking to establish themselves were primary workers. So Draper decided to do something to make it easier for them. They built a set of row houses called the Prospect Heights. And if you look at history, it was 6 main nationalities. You had Portuguese, Greek, Irish, Italian, Polish, I'm forgetting, Armenian. So what they did is they set off areas of the heights. So if you were Portuguese, you could live anywhere from number 1 to number 30.
So even within the buildings themselves were segregated by nationality?
Yes.
Wow.
That's why I say, if they ever went to you today and said, sorry, Mr. Rudden, you're not Portuguese. You can't live in number 28.
So I would have had to live in the Irish section.
You would have had to live in like the 80s, 90s. Now, they didn't do it in a bad way.
It was just to keep people of the same nationality.
They gave one of the row houses to each community to kind of be the Portuguese club. So you had one of the little, the downstairs row house was where all the Portuguese immigrants could go at night or during the day, and it was like a little club.
And you also had an Armenian one and an Irish.
You had Armenian, you had an Irish.
Oh, wow.
But if you think about it today, you probably get a negative reaction to Holman. Doesn't sound Armenian. Sorry, that apartment is not available to you.
There would be law. There is a law against that, I do believe.
I think so.
Several.
So fast forward to about 54 or 55 years ago. That's when the mayors started.
The mayors got together originally as a social group. You'd have a group of people coming together to kind of celebrate the heritage. I mean, today we talk about diversity. And I always laugh saying we never understood what it was because we were too busy living it. The biggest thing you had to do is if you heard a new joke, you had to get down and tell all your friends that it was an Italian joke before your friends from the plains came up to the heights and made it into a Portuguese joke,
right,
or an Irish joke or everything else.
Right.
But the group started originally as a social group. And they would do go down to the shore and go to Rocky Point and all sorts of places. And then it started to evolve where people started saying, we ought to do something for the community where we came from. A lot of people don't understand that the Heights goes all the way from what we think of as, Casey Pool, the beginning of the Heights, all the way over to West Street, all the way down to Water Street. So you had a good, large section of town.
It's not just the row houses on what is
It's not
called
just Prospect Heights.
Road, yeah.
Yeah. But even there, I'll get to it, but people got together and they decided when we elect a new mayor, we're going to try rotating the chair. So every nationality gets a year. So every 6 years, it's Portuguese.
Right, which is Manny Borges, excuse me. You
And
correct my pronunciation.
Willie Kincaid is our new mayor.
So Manny's fading out.
Oh, yeah.
Come July, come next month.
With the parade, and Will Kincaid comes in representing the Irish.
Right. Now, will have, like every other mayor, an opportunity to pick a project that he'll spearhead for the good of the Heights.
Right, and Manny's project was redoing the monument, correct?
Actually doing the monument, because up until now we had a wooden monument, and wood does tend to degrade after a number of years. So now there's a new marble monument
That lists the mayors.
that lists the mayors and has plenty of room for the next 50 years.
Right, does it also list the honorary mayors?
The honorary mayors are on the other side of the monument.
Okay.
So you'll have both. But the biggest thing was, if you look back over the years, the mayors have done things like work with the Parks Department to upgrade the park.
Put in trees.
Put in trees. I mean, the first time that park in the Heights was upgraded was 1973, because they were building new houses along Route 140, and a lot of lumber was donated by the builders. And the young cherubs of the Heights went and gathered it and built a hockey rink.
Well, cherubs, that's good.
Was the word donated in quotes there, Al?
Yeah, well, I don't think the builders knew they really donated it, because they didn't seem as appreciative as we thought they would be once they saw it and took an inventory. So it's much nicer to have it done on the up and up,
Right.
but again.
But I know you have the flagpole, the war monument.
Last year we updated
Park
the war
benches.
monument. The
I
year
can't
before we
think of
did the
everything there.
bench work, but it was part of the park.
Right.
So it's all about, when you look at the gazebo, Dr. Fitz and the kids from BVT came over and we redid a gazebo there. So it gave the residents, it gave the kids a place to play, a place to sit. So your parents could sit there and just watch out over the kids while they ran up and down the park. There's been a lot of really good projects done. And it's all done in conjunction. I mean, if you think about it, we have a big celebration at the Portuguese picnic every year.
Right.
The mayors have nothing to do with the Portuguese picnic,
That's correct.
legally,
Although you do formally install the new mayor at that time.
because we work very closely with the administration there of the club.
Right.
I mean, it's an amazing group of people at the Portuguese Club when you think they built it on the backs of their members with donations from their members. Most of the labor was donated. Today, most of the labor of keeping, the bar going and everything going is donated. You get a parking space. So you go and donate countless number of hours, and for 1 year you get a parking space that you can use. But you get to go down, and it's a little bit of the old tradition.
Right.
So it's really kind of nice. Some of the traditions still hold. I mean, if you look at the Heights, the outside row towards Route 140, I don't think there's a Portuguese ever lived there. And don't ask me why. To this day, I can't remember any Portuguese living there.
Okay, now the only other association I know going, not as long, but still ongoing, is the Plainsman of the Year. But there's some worry there that as one generation passes, less and less of the kids grew up there, so they're not continuing on. But the Prospect Heights Mayor's Group seems to just keep continuing.
The Heights is a special place. It's where we grew up. It's where our parents first came to this country. I don't know that the Plains isn't suffering from generational fade.
Yeah.
You start thinking about it, and my mother came over in 41. She was at number 8 in the Heights. I still remember the numbers, and it's so funny, because you look at people, and if I tell my mother John Fernandez, she rattles, oh, number 33. And everybody's known by the number they were in the Heights.
Right.
I don't know that as you go out a generation or two, when you think of the Plains, you typically think of the Italian side of Milford.
Right.
But they came over a generation or two before the Portuguese did.
Right.
But you don't seem to have a problem with generations running out.
Well,
Is it because people keep moving into the Heights?
that and the fact that it is a very special place, the Heights. I mean, when you think about it, our hearts are there. We still go there every fall for a reunion.
And what's,
when
what's
you
the
sing-
poem?
No matter where you roam, the Heights will always be your home.
Okay.
So you start thinking through and you say, I'll bring 3 generations to this year's, and if my daughter would stop delaying, I could have 4 generations. Now that she's married, we're waiting for the 4th one.
I've been your guest with your mother, you and your wife, and your daughters, and now one's husband and a friend. And you've let me sit at your table, thank you.
There you go.
And you can see the generations there.
But that's the part that keeps the Heights together. You know, it's that the families still all get together. We still come in October and celebrate being part of a very special part of Milford. You know, and I have a little bit of a bias towards the center of the universe here in Milford.
No, I never.
No, you never know that.
Never know that.
But the Heights especially was something that we grew up in, we identified with. And I always joked, because right above the Heights was the great unifier called Water Street, the hill.
Right.
Because the kids from Louisiana, from the Plains, they were all our rivals. Till you went through the Heights and over the hill. Now we went into Hopedale, turned the hat around. Now nobody messes with them because
You're all
they're Milford kids. Of course, on the way home, get back to the Plains, you. You know, now all of a sudden we're back home. It's like we're cousins. They were all family. And everybody was treated as if they were family. And that's why you see so many people still loving the tradition. You've been over to Diego Chavez' house, the smokehouse.
Yep.
Don't ask me why old men get such a kick out of going there, having steak tips and linguiça. And when Anna Pires comes in,
Right.
talk about, you know, the tradition of the Portuguese picnic. You know, and you think about it, you go there, you put your family.
Right.
They give you spear. They put meat on spear. It's 90 degrees, but we're going to stand around and roast the meat so that you can walk back, family, I bring food.
I bring. Yeah.
Right? And march back holding spear. Of course, you got people like me that sit there and say, there's a nice window. I walk up, they put all the meat on my sandwich. I don't have to go sweat.
So it's either the 54th or 55th year this year?
Let's see, 51, 2, 3.
53. So,
This
wow.
is 53. And
Willie Kincaid will be the 53rd.
the 53rd mayor. Now, how does somebody get to be an honorary mayor? First of all, you guys elect, the previous mayors elect the new mayor, correct?
Yes.
Okay. How does someone get to
What
be
will
an
happen
honorary
is
mayor?
you'll pick, like this year, the Irish delegation.
Yes.
The Irish 1/6 of us get together and they will come to us with 1, 2, or 3 nominations.
Right.
Then all the mayors will vote and pick one of the 3. There are times when there are people who either cannot fulfill the duties of mayor, you know, they're gone on in age,
Right.
or they weren't really born in the Heights, but they've had significant contributions they've made significant contributions or helped the Heights in other ways. So that'll become an honorary mayor. We've had a number of people who you'd never know they weren't Heights kids. I mean, God almighty, at our age, we still call them Heights kids. But they did contribute a lot to the Heights. So we want to recognize their effort. We've had about 20 honorary mayors.
Where did the tradition of when you're in the annual parade, the mayor being in the top hat and tails and
Oh
things
my
like
God.
that?
I wish I could tell you that tradition when it's 90 degrees, it's been one that I would have loved to see done away with, but it is tradition. You're showing respect to all the people that came out. And then the older mayors will see if you bow and tip your hat correctly as people that we know. You know, God forbid you are pulled on the float by my family and you don't tip your hat to my family. Every mayor will be watching. So, you know, as you're up on the pickup truck or the float, wherever you are, boy, you're looking for every ex-mayor's family because it's almost considered an insult if
Not
you
to
tipped
tip
your hat to everybody but my family.
Oh, yeah.
But in all sincerity, it is a matter of tradition. You know, why else would 10,000 people come together to eat linguiça, choriza, and God forbid tripe? But they go down there. It's to celebrate the Portuguese community. It's to celebrate Milford. You know, it's to show respect to a lot of the old people that built this town. I mean, I used to go hunting where that soccer field is. It was all woods when you think of when we grew up. So as you look out, it's our way of saying thank you to the people who built Milford and having some fun while we do
Having some
it.
fun when you do it.
That sounds great. Well, Al, thanks for giving us the history lesson and telling us all about the mayors. And for those who are at the parade later this month, look for new Mayor Will Kincaid to be riding the float and tipping that hat.
Tipping the hat.
Good night, all.
Thanks, Al.
Thanks. Hello, and welcome to the show tonight. We're going to talk to someone about the Portuguese picnic.
And our guest is Ana Pires. Did I say that? Pronounce it correctly? Al Correia was correcting me before.
Yes, you did.
Who is the Secretary-Treasurer of the Portuguese Club, which has its annual Portuguese picnic next weekend. Anna, tell us about it.
Well, in a couple of weeks. So it actually starts July 19th and July 20th.
Now I'm going to hold up this poster, which you're going to be able to see all around town. It's in Portuguese, so I can't read it. But if you're Portuguese, you can read it. And so much for this commercial announcement.
Okay, so this is an annual event that's been going on for...
How many years?
Well, I can tell you that last year, the club celebrated its 95th anniversary.
Oh my goodness.
So I can tell you that at least that number of years. So it has been an ongoing annual event that it always takes place the third weekend of July. So this year, again, being the 19th and the 20th.
Now, are there any special events that go along with the picnic? Any special things that happen?
Well, again, the main event is made up of obviously the traditional Portuguese, food with live bands, and of course our annual parade that we hold every Sunday. So the annual parade is always been there
From Sacred Heart Church, down Main Street, up Water Street, into the heights
right
to
into
the
the
club.
grounds of the club. Yes.
Right,
Yes.
okay.
Now, how long has that building been there, the Portuguese Club?
The building, well, the Portuguese Club this is the second building. Initially, the first building is in the same area, but a much smaller, building. I think it was 117, which now we are 119. And I'm not sure, I think the club might have been built, I don't know, maybe in 1985,
Okay.
around the newer building. But of course, the Milford Portuguese Club has been in existence obviously much longer than that. But again, the Portuguese community was growing.
Yes.
So there was a lot of interest of being members of the Portuguese Club. So it was found that the original building was too small.
How many members, sir?
Currently, there's around 400.
Wow.
400.
This has got to be the biggest event that Milford sees all year long.
It's actually being referred as the Milford Annual Picnic because it's been held all these years. So
And
that it's referred to be yes,
Interesting.
it's the Portuguese Club, but it's referred as the Milford Annual Picnic.
And it seems short of extremely bad weather, you always draw at least 10,000 people on a Saturday, Sunday weekend.
On average, that's what has, that's the number of people that it gets drawn. Granted, again, if the weather is not so great, then yes, the number could be smaller. But so far, since I've been involved
Right.
with the club, as far as being in the committee, the weather has been great. For
It's actually been downright hot some years.
It's been
Yes.
extremely hot, as
Yes,
I recall.
it has.
It's a celebration of Portuguese, I'd say, food, culture. I mean,
Culture.
in the parade, we see the costumes, the dancing.
Yes.
It's a very nice way for somebody who's not Portuguese to learn more about it, but it also tends to draw a lot of the state's Portuguese community. I mean, people from Hudson, New Bedford, Fall River area.
Yes, because there's a family connection. And this is what, family culture, this is what we, back home celebrate is, these types of events. So it draws your family from that live in different towns. So we can go as far as New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, into, like you had mentioned, the New Bedford area, Cambridge. So again, all, because this area, the New England area, is a high concentration of Portuguese community. So we, again, we like to continue, the tradition of, the annual, picnic, the celebration of trying to get families together and enjoy, again, the great foods. And
Now, how long have you been on the committee?
on the committee, I started being involved in the committee in 2005.
Okay,
So I have been, in there involved since then.
long time.
Long time.
Wow.
And is it true you literally start planning the next year's the day the current year's ends?
Well, no, not really. I mean, the committee members, of course, have, they've been doing it for so long that, it's like a second hand almost, but as early as January, that's when you start, really putting things in place, such as the bands. The bands are very important.
Who are the
to
bands
go-
this year?
This year, for Saturday's band, we actually have the Image Band. And then Sunday, we have the Starlight Band, which Starlight Band is actually coming from Canada.
Wow.
It's a very popular band that is actually this year they've been performing tremendously throughout the New Bedford area, the Providence, so on and so forth. So, and this is their, I'm not sure if it's the first time, it may be the second time, but it was a long, long time ago that they might have, played, at the picnic. The Image Band, again, it's a local community band from, East Providence, but it's their first time, playing it at the Milford Portuguese Club. So they're very happy that
Yeah, so you have
they
some
have the
choirs.
opportunity. And yes, and then of course on Sunday, again, typically we always have our celebration of the Catholic Mass at the main hall at the club at 11 o'clock. And shortly after the Mass, then the kitchen pretty much opens up to the guests to eat at the club. We have a smaller hall where, again, they're welcome, to eat in with their families. It's also very popular for families that may not have, the ability or the flexibility to go to the club. They go in and take out. They do take out orders and bring it home, to enjoy. And then from that point, and again, throughout this time, there's already music going on and, and so on. And then at 2 o'clock, that's when we start our annual Sunday parade, starting at Sacred Heart Church, going to the club. There is going to be a small, intermission in there, and then around 4:30, 5 o'clock, that's when the folklore dancers, again, that participate in the parade, that will be dancing for the crowd, at the grounds. So there's two groups. I would say the name, but it's kind of a long name, but it's the folklore dancers from Norwood, which there's a lot of the Milford children actually dancing in the group that belong. They live in Milford. So, and then we have another folklore group that they're actually coming from the Cranston Portuguese Club.
Oh, wow.
Down in Rhode Island,
Yes.
which of course has a large Portuguese community.
Yes, it is. As a matter of fact, I was just there Saturday. They were celebrating their annual picnic as well. And Saturday, I went there and I introduced myself, to the...
Oh, so you're a picnic groupie?
I am. I am very proud to say that I am. I am.
All right.
Yes.
All right. So is there anything specific food that you expect at the
Yes,
picnic?
the traditional dishes have always been, again, we refer to them as tripe, which is also known as dobrada. We have the famous beef stew. We have the rotisserie chicken that is being constantly, rotisserie outside, served with, rice. Then you will go into the sandwiches, which is, again, the typical linguiça sandwich. And you have the steak sandwiches, as well as, of course, you got to have, we're going to have the hot dogs, the hamburgers, French fries, so just, I mean, obviously to accommodate,
Everybody,
everyone.
right.
Exactly.
But the traditional Portuguese foods are there
Main
too.
dishes,
Main
right, would be
dish.
the tripe and the beef stew, as well as the steak. Again, it's available, to be done outside in the skewers, along with the sardines. You can't forget the sardines.
Sardines, oh, okay.
That again,
I don't
it's
care for
being-
sardines personally, but my wife loves them, but
Okay.
I'm not.
But no, that's okay. We forgive you.
Oh, well, that's good. But I like steak and I like the other stuff, so.
So but that's mainly the the foods, and that it's been in the menu for a number of years, if not forever.
And then there'll be probably plenty of beer.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plenty.
Two beer carts, if I remember from the selectmen's hearing.
What is it?
You have 2 beer carts, if I remember from the selectmen's hearing.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
That serves on both sides.
Right.
So, we don't typically open, all of it at once. I mean, you basically start serving based on the crowd, that, we happen to have.
Well, now, typically, when's the crowd the largest?
Saturday is a big
Is the big day?
is a big day. Again, it's the weekend. If the weather is nice,
Everybody will show
then
up.
everybody, again, I mean, you're outdoor,
Yep.
and, the live music is going until the band on Saturday will be playing from 7:30 to 12:30.
Wow.
So, that.
And what kind of music will they be playing?
Traditionally, the Portuguese bands, they play a little bit of everything.
Okay.
It's just not, Portuguese. Mainly, yes, the
Okay.
Portuguese dancing, music, but, they do Brazilian, they do Spanish, they do,
okay.
and American. So it's a combination.
Combination of all
Yes.
kinds of stuff. Okay.
Yes.
And there'll be people dancing, I'm sure.
Oh, of course.
Okay, absolutely. Fantastic.
That's what it's all about, too.
Oh, right. Well, it's a lot of fun. Picnics are great
I
time
think
for
so.
everybody.
Yes,
And,
and it's a way to socialize, to see friends, to reconnect. I mean, it's amazing how people do ended up meeting up with old friends.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's great. It's great,
And it's an extended family too, Portuguese.
Yes.
It's a large group.
very much so.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
So
Anything
will
else?
I see you there?
You might see
And
me
you,
there.
Kevin?
I'm usually there every Sunday. I go for the
I
linguiça.
do remember you. Yeah.
I go for the linguiça.
No,
It's one of my favorite sausages. So
Yes.
Ooh.